But right now we're going to welcome one more special guest. Also from Chicago, Hart, an award-winning photojournalist and faculty member at Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. Rob spent 12 years working for the Chicago Sun-Times. He was named the Chicago Journalist of the Year last year. And his work has appeared in numerous newspapers and magazines. And on the walls, see if I can remember this, walls, mouse pads, picture frames, and desks at his work and refrigerators all over the country.
Awesome.
So let's give a big round of applause for our last guest, Rob Hart.
All right, thanks, guys. Jason and P, that was awesome, by the way. I know Spencer and Gregory are on their way back to where they live or where they don't live. But it was really cool. Also, this is really, really amazing to be here on this side, having started out there when I was a student. And Lucas, Mike, and Corey, and John. Organizations like this don't exist without great dedicated volunteers that spend a lot of time. So I really appreciated everything you guys did, not just for me, but for like the photojournalism community as a whole. We're in Illinois, we're going through a tough time with our organization. It's getting harder and harder to put these on every year if you're paying members. And there's also tons of people like at home that are sacrificing greatly so we could be here and so we can continue to do what we love. Think about those people tonight if you make it home tonight. Some of us won't. So I clearly remember coming here in 2000 on my 22nd birthday. It was in Milwaukee. It was a lot of fun. And then again in 2009. And this is kind of what I remember from 2009. Someone shot this with my camera, I don't remember who. But there was a lot of that stuff happening. Man, I know, wasn't it? I remember at 4 a.m. playing ping pong, or no, pinball with Lisa Krantz and Scott Strazzani. And there's other stories that I will never divulge from that night. Originally when Lucas asked me, we were at Geek Fest in Minneapolis, and I never thought this would materialize. So I told Jason Brown here, the weirdo taking pictures, that I had been invited, and we wanted to go on this epic road trip, and he kind of wanted to know what I was going to bring to the table, right? So I started asking people. What should I do? What should I talk about? And one of the guys that I ended up losing my job with, who doesn't want to be identified, they're very, very supportive of me. I would keep that in mind. But we want to get darker in here, more romantic. Yep. All right. This is going to be an all skate, so ladies' choice first. Somebody like one of you. But still, my public appearances at Medill garner mild internal screaming, which is kind of what I'm going for. So, guys, keep the screaming internally, please. I gotta put this on because I told them I would. For one picture. So you can hear me. So my life coach is Mr. Saul Nealman. And, I consulted him as we do every day, a lot, because when you're a freelancer, you spend a lot of time doing absolutely nothing, right? He also is producing a book called Weird Sports. Anyway, I can't breathe with that thing on. I don't know how he does it with the whole thing. I was talking to him about this, and he said this is verbatim from a text message he sent me. I would show it to you. But there's also some other dirty things involved in that text message. So he said, I think showing emotion in front of strangers can be beautiful. Show that it matters to you, and that you're a person with feelings. Own your emotion. It's your story, it's my story, it's all of our story. Geek Fest and Melissa Little, and all our community, it's what I live for. It's what I'm thankful for. And that you knew about the naked bike ride. Our first experience shooting together was at the naked bike ride. It's no mistake we're friends. And then he adds, as Saul would do, I just wish you had kids. So, that joke was supposed to go over way better.
I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, he said, I just wish you had tits.
Oh.
Do I need to copy this a little more? Anyway. All right. Good thing my mom's not here. So I kind of, taking Saul's advice, I kind of wanted to show something that I'm really, really proud of. And this was last Saturday. Kind of one of the best moments of my professional career, I guess you could say. I got to present one of my students, Emily Jan, but she got to I think it's going to be about a $700 scholarship the year, the John H. White Keep and Flight Scholarship that I started. And it was one of those amazing moments where someone gets to see the fruits of their 30 plus years of teaching pay off, and see how it continues, and how it's going to continue. So, I mean, we've all had a lot of highlights in our life because of what at Columbia College we do call PJ Love, and this was just another one of those things. So I kind of wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that I'm really proud of, and the work that makes me the happiest. And it's proof that the system that John developed, that it works, that you can plug kind of any one of us into this system, and we can succeed, and that we can find this passion for storytelling and for photojournalism. And that really just like giving a shit about somebody really, really pays off. I mean, you can really see it in what Jason and Pete just showed us. So this is Emily's work from the Lathrop Homes. It's a CHA, Chicago Housing Authority, neighborhood that probably in 5 years is not going to exist as the public housing comes down and people get spread out into other communities. Some photos from Lindsay, who was actually a engineering grad student that I had, who just bought this new camera and took it on adventures to I forget where this place is. Vietnam. There you go. We can go to Monica's, who's sitting right here. Tornadoes. We cover polar plunges. We go to Columbia, or just having your camera with you while you're fishing with your dog. While your uncle's on the phone calling Poland because it was the Easter? Mm-hmm. Easter? All right. Martine over here. Going out in the community. I mean, this is what we do every day. Finding those awkward, weird moments. This was actually shot with my camera. I know because of the file name. Going in that polar plunge, like finding those little moments. Puerto Rico, I don't exactly know where this is. I don't remember. Okay, yeah, sorry. Peru, Chicago. All these little moments. I mean, it's really like, to me, like this is my favorite. This is what I want to do. This was shot by Jason Brown, and one singular event, like one person can forever alter the trajectory of your life, and you can alter theirs, right? Because really, what we want to do is like, how do you cultivate and maintain and sustain this passion for what we do? One of the things I wanted to do is make sure there's like this army of these visual servants out there, and continue this lifetime assignment that we're going to hear about. This photo was a class, early on the button, that changed my life, again taken by Jason. I teach photojournalism to mostly non-photojournalists. I mean, these are reporters, these are people who want to shoot documentary films. But like, it's the building blocks for anything you do. But I don't see it as like, I don't look at it anymore as teaching photography. I look at it as teaching them to realize their passion. Like, I know everyone's not going to walk out the door and be a photojournalist. I mean, you shouldn't. I don't need the competition. But, like that system that I came up in, that, everyone is important, that you can walk up to someone and ask them a question and look in their eyes. And that's what I want to get at. And I got a letter from John Kuhn, who, as it turns out, another twist of fate, did his final project shadowing Peter at the Tribune. And he sent me this letter that said, I hope that whatever I end up doing in life, I'm as passionate about it as you are about making photos. You know that quote, I think, by Howard Thurman that goes, don't ask what the world needs, but what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people that come alive. And I give them the same final assignment that I was presented with. You're not going to be able to read this probably, unless you have really good eyes. But it's a letter that John gave us the last day of one of my classes in 1999. I have this, I read it all the time. But the end is always my favorite, because it is exactly what we want to do with this Keep in Flight scholarship. Like, we want to encourage people to do great work. They might not always be the best at, we might not always be the best at what we do, we might not win a shitload of awards. But I think sometimes people just need to know, like, you're valued, and we love you, and we want to support you. And this is like, you know, my whole shtick is right out of his playbook. But it reads that you are special, that you are loved, appreciated, and respected. So fly with wings like eagles all the days ahead. May the fellowship, binding, work, success, and experiences of photojournalism at Columbia College always fuel your journey. My dear friend, may God forever bless, magnify, and multiply your talents. Class, this is your lifetime assignment. Be faithful, stay focused, and keep in flight. I wish more people wrote letters like this. October 1997 was my first class at Columbia College. This is Tamara Bell's journal that night. I don't think anyone who ever took a class there did not have their life changed. You know, I'm here because someone invested their time and talents in me. Because that night, I was being a smartass, and I got taken out into the hall, and I didn't have my camera. And, you know, John gave me that talk that he has given 1,000 times, that, you know, service to others is the rent you pay for your time on earth. You know, and it straightened me out. Because someone gave a shit enough to just say, hey, you're being a jackass. Like, focus on your subjects. You know, I got to have my photos on the same page as him. I got to have my name on the same schedule as him. I got to teach a class at Medill that he used to teach. And as it's written somewhere in here, one of the greatest things you can do in life is to give. We learned so many things from this, that you must have an intimacy with light, that you need to stay connected to the people that fuel your journey, which is like what we're doing with these things, that we are visual servants, that talent unused loses its usefulness, and that better is the end of something than the beginning. And we have a beginning, like any story, we have a middle, and we have an end. Ray Whitehouse took this, I'm going to ask him to cut it. He's a good dude. So we're going to talk a little bit about endings. This is May 29th, 2013. It was the last click of the shutter. If I have my camera with me, I'd be clicking it. It was the last click of the shutter of my final assignment as a staff photojournalist for Sun Times Media. Tim and Ravi Shaw with their daughter Anjali in the backyard of the Oak Park home, about 2 miles from my house. This is what happens 2 miles from my house. Right? I was sent to take a couple family portraits, right? Like, it was he was one of the first openly gay administrators of a school district. And, you know, I just hung out. It was just two parents. We did some pictures in their backyard, and, you know, it's like it was boring. It was pictures of two guys and their baby, right? So I just had, you know, can I stay for dinner? I just want to hang out a little bit more. You know, that we're always taught. Go early, stay late. You know, don't leave until they kick you out. And this is just the moments that we're all looking for. You know, we want to get invited into people's lives and make pictures that are unexpected and memorable. And if you have kids, I mean, how many times, you know, we've all done this, you know, you point at birds or the plane going over their head or the truck or the dogs, and, you know, they make noises, and this is kind of all I ever wanted to do. I never had any aspirations of working internationally, or I don't ever want to leave. I don't want to go west of Wolf Road or north of Devon. I just wanted to be, I wanted to be the one that knocks, right? Like Walter White said, but like I just want to come to your house and hang out and see what you're doing, see what your life is like. So this is another beginning, 2.5, I guess. So this is a carpet on the steamboat room on the 14th floor of the Holiday Inn. We're 28 photojournalists. We're told that the newspapers no longer needed content produced by skilled professionals and would be relying on reporters toting iPhones and freelancers. It was the first photo out the door. I didn't stick around. I said thank you to everyone. I left. This is my second photo. I've never shown anybody this. I didn't want to show anybody this, but I think it's funny. But you have to walk by all these ads on the way out of the building, for their Pulitzer Prize winning staff and how they're these great community newspapers. So I walked out the door and I was singing, the Freedom song from Arrested Development, which Jason's wearing a blue Frozen Banana shirt, so it kind of works out. And I kind of immediately wanted to celebrate with a beer, like as we all do, right? When they said we were going to be replaced by people shooting with iPhones, like I did kind of what any smartass would do, and I wanted to use my camera as a middle finger, and I just started making photos. And I was just using my iPhone on Hipstamatic. It was 10:30 in the morning. I had already had 3 beers. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't ask me. But this was the first time I picked up my camera. And Scotty Stewart came in and he threw his hands up. And I don't know who he's actually talking to here, but he said, "We're all gone, all the photographers." I kind of feel bad I didn't shoot any photos in the steamboat room, but it felt like when my grandma was dying of cancer, like I couldn't make any photos of that. I don't know why, because I didn't want it to be real in a way. But this kind of felt like a wait, because Sam Siennas had never bought me a beer until that day. And then the Tribune reporters came. And then my favorite people in the world, the Tribune photographers, came. And they looked sadder than we were. And if you can see that stack of 20 sitting on the table. I was with Lynn Merrick from Cranes right there. She took a great photo of us. It's really nice. I mean, she's a great reporter. I don't mean to besmirch Lynn. She's a great human being. But this is what I show my journalism students. People always ask me, like, the Monday after this, I was on the phone with a reporter, and they said, what are you going to tell your journalism students? Like, I'm going to show them what great storytelling is. So, what great visual journalism is, and what matters more is your heart and your camera. And this is from John J. Kim from the Chicago Tribune, who used to be a staffer sometimes, who won a Pulitzer with us, with them, like I said. You don't even need to explain that shit. Like, someone who's trained in great storytelling, who knows exactly where to be. I saw him anticipate this moment, and I thought, shit, I'm in the Tribune tomorrow crying like a baby. It has the lens right. We're trained to react and to anticipate. I have to be on the news that night from the Billy Goat. And the next morning, I was sitting at home. And I knew the attention our story was going to get, and I knew there was going to be no better way to respond than by doing exactly what they taught me to do for 12 years. And that's to tell stories, to find a hook, and deliver that punch to the gut visually, and exploit the audience they helped me build via social media. It got a lot of attention. Someone in Spanish even thought I had won a Pulitzer, which, so, I don't know, maybe if I go to Mexico, someone will buy me drinks or something. But it was, it picked up steam really, really quickly. And I did about 1 million views that first week. In a way, it was kind of great to be able to have a hook for media outlets, so they can talk about it. We can kind of keep the story on the minds of the public. And I got to tell a huge audience about the power of this medium that I love and that we all love so much, and what a great responsibility this job really is. I had a great holder for my microphone. Ever since I was probably 16 years old, all I ever wanted to be was a newspaper photographer. And I knew from then on doing news was really going to be a small percentage of my life going forward. But I had a project that both photographically and personally, where I could make photos that I wanted to make. That Friday morning, I got to see my daughter take her first steps on the porch. And it seemed like we were both learning something new, like how do we move in this new world. And I was being given this great gift of time. I could choose to be there instead of shooting, a plate of food or, some awful assignment that I just didn't care about anymore. I'm sorry if you guys still have to do this awful assignment. I felt bad for these guys, for Al and Scotty and Don. The guys that had been there for 30 plus years, they had learned the city, they had gained their trust. They were out on the streets every day. This was the only thing they ever knew, and it was devastating. But it was really cool to actually be linked to these guys. I think publishers that are looking at, the P&Ls, the profits and losses, now that I have a business, I know what that means. They see us kind of as like a big questionable expense. And they might not know what we bring to the organization. And I kind of wish more places that were, if they're going to go down that road and just think, like, these guys are expensive, we could sit down and have a talk with publishers. And, I could have given them 15 ideas to increase the revenue and build their audience. I can see that we had more people than we needed. And I wouldn't have mind leaving. But study after study concurs that a great image with a story is going to get read more frequently. This photo was in the contest yesterday by Mark Kurtzberg. So I returned my gear. This was all I had left at the end of 12 years. Well, a camera, 2 lenses from 03 and 300-2.8 that was busted. Most of that was my fault. But I just wanted someone to kind of walk through the newsroom with a diaper box. There's that edge now, right? I kind of knew right away I was going to have to pick up new clients. I was going to have to branch out, doing higher ed, doing corporate, doing PR, working for nonprofits. I even got to shoot real news again. All my friends from Geek Fest are now photo editors places, and like the Wall Street Journal. So I kind of wanted to save that time, shoot my phone to kind of boil my experience down into one picture. And I bought a Nikon at Geek Fest. And I was getting a couple calls, just like go hang out and do what you do, but it was for, it was for private companies, or this was Wealth magazine. They sent me to like a plowing competition, and it was super fun. And I got a lot of people saying thank you, which I never got as a staffer. As Mark demonstrated today, we have the tools now to own our content, and the internet is becoming a great distribution mechanism. He could not have had this kind of success with his book 10 years ago. That didn't exist. that we could take our stuff right to someone and say, hey, this is what I'm worth, you know? And I think it's a great way to start exploiting our market, right? You know, like I have never smiled so much. And I was on an assignment for the Tribune, and one of my former colleagues was talking with someone, and I heard him say this phrase that I always hated hearing from reporters. We're doing the best with what we have. And I hated apologizing for the product that we were making. And I don't do that anymore. So the Sun-Times photo staff was posthumously given the Chicago Journalist of the Year award. One floor above the Steamboat Room in the very same building that we used to work in. And I remember standing there having a drink with Brian Jackson, who's actually back working at the paper, and is a fantastic photographer, by the way. You know, he was looking out the window, and the sun was setting over the city, and it was the first time anyone had really been back in that building. You know, he was smiling, and he said it felt weird, but it was a good weird. And you know, that night, I remember John telling us that, like, you know, they didn't give us our talents and they can't take them away. You know, a lot of awesome things happened. The awesome Chicago Tribune, which Meg was a part of. You know, we got to show our work and we got to talk about pictures on the stage of the House of Blues, man, to like a sold-out crowd. Like people spent, how much was it? Tickets, you remember? $25 to come see people talk about pictures. You know, and these weren't photographers. These were like, you know, this was with the AIA, the American Architectural, whatever organization. You know, like, sold out crowd at the House of Blues to see pictures, man. Like, how crazy is that? You know, like, Joe Strummer was on that stage, man. But, you know, the economic realities of being a freelancer are not lost on you. You know, you can't feed your kids on passion. You know, so how do you find the line between, you know, what lights your fire and the way I say, make it rain on my bank account? You know, it's not, you know, I mean, I'm gonna have a lot more mouths to feed in 8 or less weeks. So, you know, I hate the head on this. I hate it so much. But, you know, like, but how are we going to survive in a post-newspaper world? Like, I don't think that's going to exist. I didn't come up with that. But, you know, like, we've seen like what Spencer shows. We've seen how Mark is surviving. You know, like, it exists. You know, but for every one editorial assignment I do, like this was for the Chicago Tribune this fall, I have to do about 4 or 5 of these other types of photography, right? Last year, only 17% of my gross was editorial. Either local or international media. A lot of it is, you know, portraiture. I call it propaganda. You know, but how do we find these jobs? You know, it's not easy for me. You know, a lot of people have approached me like, you know, like how do we do this, right? And I don't really have an answer to how to survive. You know, you just have to do what we were taught. You know, to put in the work, to arrive early, to stay late. And I totally remember this moment after covering a structure fire in Oak Park for 4 hours in January. Then I had to go shoot a wrestling meet. You know, I filed the pictures that they wanted, and I had everything packed up. My laptop was packed up. My coat, as you guys remember, everyone knows, you wear a wool coat to a fire, you just smell like crap the rest of the time. You know, I smelled like crap. I just wanted to go home. And a source that I knew, he said, "Hey, my kid's wrestling next. You know, he's wrestling this nationally ranked. We've ranked 4 in the nation. You know, so I'm like, shit, I'm gonna stay and shoot this." And I did, and he beat him. You know, the underdog beat him. And now, like, you know, this photo hangs in their living room. And he was also the superintendent of a school district, and called me up and said, you know, hey, can you just come and hang out at our school for a day and tell me what it would cost? And we have all this blank space that we need photos for. This was a revenue stream I didn't know existed. It was just doing exactly what we've done 1,000 times. Go to a school, make a picture. Make a feature picture. Go to the football game. Go into the hallway. I mean, they're not amazing pictures. But I made more money almost in that one day. Actually, that one day, I made more than half of what I made the entire year working for one of the Chicago daily papers. I mean, that's just the economic realities of what I do. But like, you gotta have great ideas. You gotta want to go out and find these stories. You gotta want to go to redneck fishing on your own. I pitched this to my boss and they didn't want it, or my foreman. You've got to shoot pictures kind of for you. When you're at events like state track, which I hope I never have to shoot again. No offense. You've got to be shooting pictures for you. When you have editorial clients like this for the Wall Street Journal, I'm always thinking about this mantra that I always tell my class: plan, patience, execute, right? You make a portrait that they want, and then you hang out and you document their daily life. This photo hangs on the refrigerator in their house. I'd rather be on 100 fridges than in a museum. You get there early. I remember this great interview after we got laid off. It was with Kai Rizdal. I got to talk to Kai Rizdal, and then they got a hold of John, and I got bumped. So Kai Rizdal's like my hero. I remember he called me, and I was like, I know how to spell your name, man. I know how to spell Kai Rizdal. And he thought I was totally weird. But it's always something that I play a lot. I keep a lot of stuff, but the great thing about photojournalism is that we're out there every single day. The hottest day, the coldest day, when you can't drive, you walk. For others, to have that front seat to history, to the lives of people, to tell the story of humanity, feeling the heartbeat of humanity, the heart of the world, the soul of the world, and capturing that from the camera of our hearts. It is a huge privilege. And now these privileges are being abridged. Often a lot of the people standing next to me at some of these assignments are doing photojournalism as a hobby. They have a spouse that's in a more lucrative job, like I used to. Well, I still do. But the market is changing, and I don't necessarily blame these people, because photography it's a shitload of fun, But I can't compete on that market, So I have to elevate my market, right? And when someone calls you and wants to give you $1,000 a day to just go do what you do, it's a hard thing to turn down. But we approach it like a photojournalist, right? We bring our eye, we bring our soul, and we bring our heart. And even though, technically I'm now biased in nature, you can't turn off this storytelling. You can't turn off that it's about people, right? That you always turn around. That even though this guy's paying my check, this is the face I want to shoot, right? I want to find these unique, weird moments. Press conferences make for awful pictures. I'm always looking for opportunities to have a shitload of fun. This is my buddy Jay Guile. He's my neighbor. He lives in Oak Park. He's my friend. He's a former newspaper photographer. And when the Special Olympics called and they wanted to put a team together to document their polar plunge, which we went to, I had a better shooting position than anybody working for the wires, right? And would I rather be working for an editorial client making $125 per assignment or $700 a day doing this? But it also allows me to do the kind of pictures that I want to do on their dime. And hopefully it all works out. The event raised $1 million. When was the last time that you helped somebody raise $1 million to do something good. I mean, how many of our newspapers are doing great things for people? You know, we did about 400,000 digital downloads from this event. So if you raise money for the Special Olympics, you got a free picture, right? If you watch Chicago Fire, this is for the ladies. Or the lady. Sorry, that's a bad joke. Yeah, that's really good. You know, making terrible photos, or great photos, in terrible conditions isn't always that easy. And that's why they are going to hire skilled professionals to do this job. I mean, this is where we're needed. You're not going to put someone who doesn't know how to protect their camera in frozen water, right? You're going to spend the money to get these kind of photos. These are the people you're going to hire. And I think this is where we need to assert ourselves in these markets. I mean, we have the skills to do this kind of stuff. And it was an amazing day. I had so much fun. One of my students shot this, Annie, or Ann. You know, so like, how do you cultivate this passion, man? It's tough when like you're worried about money every day. You know, I got to buy a car to carry 3 kids around in. You know, how do you get a loan when you're a freelancer and don't have, you know, and didn't really show much of a profit last year? You know, but like you just got to be out making pictures for yourself, for them, you know, for my neighbors, making the kind of photos that you want to make. You know, shooting what you love. I mean, that's what we're all taught in our photo classes, right? They would always say, shoot what you love, right? I think John this morning mentioned it's not the tool, right? It's the person. What did he say? I don't exactly remember. You know, it's your skills, it's your ability to anticipate. I mean, anticipation is 90% of photography, right? It's your brain and your heart. Those are the most important tools in your camera bag. You know, knowing where to put your camera to convey that feeling. You know, I mean, life is a series of clicks, it's a series of firsts, it's a series of lasts. You know, I never thought that the first image I made of my daughter would be like this. You know, we all have this magical idea of childbirth in our head. You know, you just don't think. You know, in that moment where, like, both people were on the verge of not surviving. You know, how can you do anything else other than make pictures? I mean, I know nothing else I could have done in that moment other than, like, I wanted to capture what that feeling was like. Mostly because, you know, we've had to do this so many times in other people's lives. If you're not willing to do this in your own life, you know, it's the same with John Kim's photo. I mean, you've got to be willing to give someone access to you if you expect them to give, whatever, you know what I mean. This is for JB. These are our wives. We're not married to some of them. You know, when I go on vacation, I'm shooting pictures. You know, my personal work has now become my family. I have great access, and it means so much more to me than the crap I used to shoot. This was the last Christmas my grandfather was alive. You know, when my friends are in town from China, and we go to the zoo, you know, we spend so many years shooting other people's history that, like, you know, I just kind of I want to spend time on my history. I want to spend time shooting my niece. You know, one of the great things that we all love, you know, because it's our, like what Saul says, it's our story. I mean, this is the story of our community. You know, photography is the only way to kind of hold time. It's really the most tangible way to, like, really, for me to save that feeling. Like, what was this like? You know? And then it also can show me how much has changed. You know, this was Christmas 2012 at my house. You know, 1 year later, you know, everyone's a little bit further away because they know she can now move and pull her tails. You know, this is my new project, man. You know, I would rather be shooting this, honestly, than maybe anything else. Well, Jason's going to come up again. This is my kid's first birthday party. She really enjoyed it. So did we. The bottle of Dark Lord was particularly amazing. So we're already kind of in the midst of a trend where everyone needs to be a publisher. Everyone needs to be a brand. You know, I don't necessarily want it to be a business. I just want to be a newspaper photographer, right? But everybody needs content, man. Like, someone needs fresh content for their site, for their social media, all the time. You know, I think photographers are ideally placed to capture this corner of the market. You know, we basically worked at newspapers. We were basically there to solve people's problems visually. When a reporter would come up to us and say, I have this big story with all these numbers, like, we would think of, like, what face are we going to put on this story? Like, where's the person? You know, I think we as organizations need to start to find ways to bring people together and start talking about this stuff. You know, no one ever told me you could make a crap load of money shooting really terrible photos. And then you shoot the ones you like for yourself. You know, like, I made so much money shooting a group of 70 people one day. It was ludicrous. And it took me like an hour. You know, and then I got to spend the rest of the day taking pictures like this. It's really quiet here. On the way up here, I have this Daniel Johnston mix that I love to listen to. I talk about this a lot. But there's this really great song called Big Business Monkey. If you guys don't know Daniel Johnston, amazing songwriter, you should really check it out. But there's this line that I love, and it always says, everything you cling to will rot. Everything you do will be forgot by everyone you ever tried to impress. So, you know, no matter what you believe, you know, maybe this like moment is all we have, possibly, at worst, or at best. And I met this amazing old dancer named Norman, who spent about an hour talking to me about how he lives in the moment. He lives in the season. And as a photographer, that kind of resonated with me. Like these moments are kind of maybe all what we'll leave behind, right? Or we're going to leave this legacy of PJ Love, right? Of being a visual servant. And we're going to talk about it constantly. You know, I tell every kid that ever comes in my door, I don't mean to call them kids, but you know, I tell everyone about PJ Love. I give them all lifetime assignments. Like, this is what they've got to do. You know, they've got to carry this on. You know, that giving is the greatest thing you can do. I don't want to ruin the end of True Detective for you. But this is the last line. And I firmly believe the light is winning, guys. Like, at least for me it is. So I think I'm going to stop there.
Thanks, brother. Let me give you a hug.